Artificial intelligence is everywhere, rapidly evolving with endless possibilities. AI has been around for a while, but it is becoming more prevalent every day. The workforce impact has not fully defined, but here today to help us unravel the trajectory of AI is Philip Britton, managing partner of the Innovation Ranch with the Chamber President, Todd O'Hare.
Well, welcome, Philip. So I got to tell you, Philip Britton and I went to high school together. He graduated in 1984, so he's significantly older than me.
Ancient.
And Philip and I have similar sort of stories, and since we both grew up on ranches, different parts of Park County. Philip has an interesting story in the sense that you are one of those kind of classic Montana stories from most of us that grew up in the 80s and into the early 90s that left Montana and then fought and clawed and scraped your way back. Tell us a little bit about your background there.
Well, thank you, Todd, and thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here and great to see a lot of old friends and meet a lot of new people. I'm really enjoying the sessions. Great conference. As Todd says, I grew up on a cattle ranch east of Livingston in Park County, and I went east for school, and I got offered an opportunity to come join a startup, and this is in the late 1980s, before startups were really a cool thing, particularly in tech. All my friends were going to go be Gordon Gekko and on Wall Street at that time, in New York City, which was honestly the last place on earth I thought I would ever go. I never dreamed of going to New York. Not that I had anything against it, but that was not kind of in my plans. I did want to see the world, of course, at that age, and live some different places. As much as I love Montana, but I'll say this: at the time, and I studied computer science, studied AI back in the '80s. It was a very different field back then, and I knew I wanted to be involved in tech, information technology, and software my whole career. But doing that in Montana just didn't seem feasible at that time at all. Whereas New York was, of course, just rife with opportunities. And so went to New York and went from startup to startup. I was the founder, CEO of 4 different startups. Also held a couple of corporate jobs at financial information companies, Bloomberg and Thomson Reuters, and twice at Google. But I'd always had in the back of my head that I would, of course, return back to Montana. And when you grow up in a ranch and your folks are still on the ranch, at some point you're going to have to come home and take care of the ranch. That's just part of the deal, and a very welcome one from my point of view. And so in recent years, it has felt to me that things are really just blossoming in Montana. Certainly economically, we can see that. From a tech and innovation point of view, my particular area of interest, so much going on, and we can talk a little bit about that. And then being an empty nester with the kids off, and frankly a little bit of a catalyst from the pandemic. Has happened for many people. My wife and I looked at each other and wait, what? What are we doing? What are we waiting for? Let's just go. So we sold our house in New York suburbs and moved back a few years ago, 3 years ago now, and very happily full-time on the ranch.
Well, congratulations and welcome home, Philip. It's great to have you. This is a great Montana story. This is exactly what's going to make this state grow as we go forward. And I think the key component of this was the opportunities exist in Montana today that didn't exist before. And they're different opportunities. This is not just an agricultural state, not just a natural resource state, but there's a bigger diversity in sort of careers, jobs, businesses that are happening in Montana.
Absolutely true. And I see it, one of the things I do is I'm on the board with Adam of a nonprofit called Scaling Montana, and this year I'm the chair of that organization. And our mission is to really help foster, facilitate, encourage, we say engage, encourage, educate, and connect the tech, and we define tech very broadly, not just information technology, but all kinds of tech, ag tech, construction tech, et cetera, the tech industry in Montana, and from the bird's eye view that we have, working in that organization, is just a tremendous amount of innovation and energy in the space that's happening today. It's really encouraging and frankly inspiring.
So our topic is artificial intelligence, and most of us are familiar with this term in general. We've had a couple panels that have touched on it. I actually watched a couple of sort of bite-sized videos that you put together on X explaining artificial intelligence. And most of us that are familiar with it have a tendency to think about it kind of in the big, hairy, scary sort of part. But talk to us about the trajectory of artificial intelligence, how fast it's evolving, and where you see it applying in business, national security, and take as much time as you need on this, because this is a fascinating subject.
Yeah, thank you, Todd, and I agree. It's absolutely fascinating. As I said, 40 years ago, I was studying AI in college, and it wasn't new then. It had been around for decades. So the idea of artificial intelligence has certainly been around for a long time. I think the name artificial is very truthful. The use of the term intelligence is a little bit of a stretch, and I think this is what gets people wound around the axle. What we have machines doing, I believe, and knowing the insides of how this stuff works, is not intelligence in the way that we think about intelligence. It's certainly not consciousness, and it's even not really intelligence. The ways that machines are able to do the amazing stuff that they can do with AI, and it is incredibly impressive and incredibly valuable, and it's going to be a really deeply ingrained part of how we work going forward. But it's a very different approach than what we do, and that has some ramifications on data centers and power, which we'll talk a little bit about. So I think, I would caution everyone to be a little, careful with the word intelligence and what leaps to mind intuitively when you hear it. In fact, when I was in college, we did use the term AI, and I think in the intermediate years, there was a little bit of movement away. It's like, yeah, it's not really intelligence, so let's call it machine learning. It's just machines learning to do cool stuff. And mostly what AI is a very powerful set of technologies, and it always has been. The specific technologies have changed over time, but the core idea is basically determining statistical relationships between things as gained from observing lots and lots of training data, whatever that data is. It might be a lot of text, it might be images, it might be all kinds of things, measurements of various kinds, and then being able to use increasingly sophisticated measurements of the statistical relationships between different things to make predictions. And so, in the last couple of years, we've had kind of a big breakthrough with what are called large language models, which all the big hyperscaler tech firms have been, just rushing, jumping all over themselves. And I was at Google at the time that ChatGPT came out, and saw firsthand the rather interesting reaction internally to that. But with these large language models, fundamentally what they do is they've looked at huge amounts of text, and then what they're able to do is predict the next word in a sentence. So given what's been written so far, and given the prompt, they run through this incredibly complex set of statistical relationships and figure out, okay, the is the most likely next word, but and may be the next most likely, or orange might be a likely one, and then it randomly picks among those likely next words, and that's how it does its magic, and the effect is incredible. We feel like we're interacting with something that's talking to us, but built up out of relatively simple algorithms. But the way they work, the magic that powers them, is because they are huge. They are massive, billions and billions and billions of what we call neurons in these neural nets that store little bits of the statistical patterns. And because they're so huge, they need a lot of processing, a lot of memory, a lot of CPUs and GPUs, a lot of computers, all operating together. They need a lot of time, and they suck a huge amount of energy, as we talked about, the way that they are done today. So that's fundamentally what AI is. Now it has huge amounts of applications. This ability to learn from looking at lots of training data and discern statistical patterns and classify things or make predictions, summarizations or predictions about markets, or be able to draw a drawing, be able to create an image really by predicting the next pixel in the image. It's really fundamentally that simple. Just a huge amount of stuff behind it. So there's lots and lots of applications. I think what we've seen the last few years is that this latest step, and it is just a step. AI has, like all technologies, has over time, you have a period of kind of equilibrium, then there's a step change when somebody invents something, and then there's a period of equilibrium, a step change, and that's true of all technologies. And so we've seen that. And of course, with each of those steps comes a hype cycle. And so we've gone up to the peak of inflated expectations, and now there's a little bit of going down into the trough of disillusionment. And while everyone was saying this is going to change everything, and frankly, my former CEO, Sundar, said it's bigger than the invention of fire. I was like, okay. Now we're finding that, okay, kind of just as is, AI, like businesses are not as quick to adopt it as was expected, and the amount of money, and you've probably seen reports when Microsoft's been very much in the eye on this. It's like, oh, they were predicting, zillions of dollars of additional income. And well, not really. A lot of companies fired a lot of folks saying, oh, we can replace them. It's like, well, maybe not exactly. And they're starting to hire back. I know big companies fired a lot of their technical writers thinking, oh, GPT is going to write everything. And it's like, oh, no, we got to hire back technical writers. It's not exactly what we thought it was. On the other hand, these are very, very powerful pieces of technology that when used for specific applications, and there are some mind-boggling things going on. Certainly, I use ChatGPT almost daily, and it is a wonderful partner to help me do research or help me get ideas or kind of flesh things out. It's like having, a person who's a partner. It's like, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? And it just makes life really, really easy. And it's able to go and scan the web and do some research. I have to check it because hallucination is a real thing, and nobody has figured out how to stop that yet. It's a much harder problem than we might think. So that continues to be a drag on it. But some of the medical advancements that have taken place are just phenomenal. Some of the engineering capabilities, because this is what machines are really, really good at doing. And anytime you have just massive, amount of data, and you need to glean the statistical, relationships and relevance out of that data, that's what AI is really, really good at. And so, this stuff is very, very valuable. And I think, as we follow the hype cycle, we go through the peak of inflated expectations, down through the trough of disillusionment, and then we climb what's called the slope of enlightenment up to the plateau of sustainability. That's the classic hype cycle. And I think Gartner may have invented that. And I believe that will happen. And I believe that AI is a tool. It's not a different thing. When something new comes out, we think about it really different. Like the browser, oh my gosh, it's this thing, we go and use it. And that was 20 years ago. Now we're like, well, yeah, of course, I just use our smartphone. Oh my gosh, here's my smartphone. Let me go use my smartphone. Now it's like it's like an appendage, as someone said earlier to me today. It's like part of how we live. And I believe that is already happening with AI, and we don't see it. It's just getting, stitched into all the different things that we do. And I think it will just be a pervasive thing. But it is a tool. It's just a tool. It doesn't It's like the invention of the hammer. It's like, oh, I'm going to be hammer first. I'm going to build all my houses with just a hammer. It's like, well, no, that's not the case. And so it needs to be thought of in terms of the context of kind of a whole set of tools, and of course, in the context of human beings as well. I actually don't think AI is going to fundamentally replace humans. I think a lot of that's overblown. I think it's like all tools, it enhances us. Like we can use it to do more, but like every powerful tool, it can also be dangerous. Right? You think about a chainsaw, really useful. I use my chainsaw all the time, super useful. But if I'm not careful, I could really hurt myself. And if a bad person got a hold of that chainsaw and decided to do something bad with it, yeah, really bad stuff can happen. And I think we need to think about AI really sort of analogously to that. The other thing I think about AI is perhaps one of the most important things and particularly for, if we think specifically about business in Montana, is that it's a little bit of a playing field leveler. And this is why, because it is a very powerful tool and a whole lot of sort of moats that tech firms have been able to build up, particularly large ones, potentially could get erased very quickly. And this is why Google and Microsoft and others have just like sprung into action when this stuff became public. They all just reacted very strongly. You've probably seen that, and it's because of concern that everything that had been built up over the last several decades could potentially be leveled, and that upstarts with relatively little resource could change the game and change the paradigm with this powerful new tool. So I think that's a really important opportunity for businesses in Montana to think, hey, the hierarchy of things isn't locked. It's never locked, and that things can change, and that this gives companies who are creative and lean into the technology and use it in responsible but really innovative ways to kind of change the game in a whole vast range of different industries. And we're seeing that already, that AI can play a powerful role in all kinds of fields. And I think that just opens up a whole new set of opportunity. And the room for innovation is huge. There's just huge amounts of innovation that still needs to take place and that will take place.
So energy is the theme of business days, and Philip and I chatted about this a couple weeks ago when we were at a conference together. I'm still learning, and some of these sort of things are way outside of my grasp, and quantum computing is one of those sort of pieces. It's like, this is a real kind of stretch. And you and I chatted a little bit about the fact that as we know things today, artificial intelligence requires massive amounts of energy. Donald Rumsfeld, I love this quote during the Iraq War, was quoted as saying, "We don't know what we don't know." And I think that applies in this sort of a situation where it's like we're standing here today and we're looking ahead and we're saying, we're going to need massive quantities of energy, but if you throw in the quantum piece to this, it may not turn out to be that right. Is that correct?
That's absolutely fair. And I think, look, as was discussed, extensively and from a whole bunch of really interesting points of view yesterday, I learned a lot. Our need for energy is high, and it's only going to get better, going to go up, get bigger for lots of reasons. Our population is growing, slowing down, but a little bit growing. Our desire for more electricity-based stuff, certainly information technology, our smartphones, our everything, is just going up, our demand. Climate change leading to more extreme temperatures means we need more electricity for heating and cooling. So the growth for lots of reasons on energy demand is for sure happening and going to continue for the foreseeable future. AI, a lot of folks are focusing, as Todd said, on the tremendous need of AI for huge amounts of compute, lots and lots and lots of computers, and huge amounts of energy to power all those computers, and it's true. Now, part of that is that the race in AI has been about just making it capable, and making it efficient was not a consideration in the early days at all. So, and we all know you can make something work, and then you can work on that thing to make it more efficient. And that's happening. And over the course of just this last year, 2024, the cost of processing AI prompts has come down dramatically, like dramatically. It's just a fraction of what it started the year as, because firms are realizing they can't afford to do it. It's just not sustainable. The ROI is not there. And so there's a huge amount of focus on just engineering this stuff to make it more efficient. We all know in the industry that there needs to be further breakthrough. You know, this latest breakthrough is just a breakthrough. It isn't like, oh, this is it. This is the way it's going to be forever. It's like, no, it was a big breakthrough. And now we're going to have some stability, and then there'll be another breakthrough, I'm sure, because that's the way technology works. Quantum computing is absolutely fascinating, generally speaking. And of course, it's fascinating for Montana, given our tremendous leadership in this space, which a lot of folks, you know, are not that aware of around other parts of the country, or even in Montana. And we're doing some really fascinating stuff with the core physics and the material sciences that, you know, we have a real strength in here academically, and then with the companies, particularly around photonics, that provide fundamental technologies that allow us to do quantum. Quantum computers, if we're able to make them really work, they're kind of, they work, but they're a little bit theoretical at the moment. But if we really get them to work, and everyone feels very confident that this will happen, we will be able to have dramatically more computing power, dramatically more, than we have with conventional computers of today. And that will, of course, allow us to do, because AI is powered by just huge scale, lots and lots of compute, we'll be able to do even more amazing things, and it'll be much faster, it'll be much cheaper, and use a lot less energy. So AI and quantum are two separate things, but they definitely support each other. We're using AI technologies today to help design quantum computers, and quantum computers are going to accelerate the power and efficiency of AI really dramatically. And Montana is poised to be an absolute leader in this area, and it's going to be critical to us going forward.
So there's a bit of a cautionary tale here, in the sense that, right, if we try to build out to try to meet the demands of increasing artificial intelligence from an energy demand side, we could wake up in 10 years and say, yeah, we've way overbuilt this thing. We've got companies that are collapsing because the actual artificial intelligence consumption of electricity has dropped dramatically.
Yes, that's right. I think our need for electricity, as I said, regardless, like, I think AI is kind of a blip on a much larger curve of energy demand increase. But yeah, there's always, we could spend a lot of energy and time and money building out stuff that is obsolete fairly quickly, and it's always an art. You never know. Well, you don't want to wait around. You want to take advantage of the moment, but you also have to balance that with understanding that things are changing and will continue to change pretty quickly, and that stuff will get obsolete. So, but it is an important art. It's not an easy, like, oh, just go all 100% in and we're good. There's a balance.
So as we get ready to wrap up here, I want to give you a chance to talk about the Innovation Ranch, right? I mean, you've moved back to Montana. You're not retired. You're actually working. Tell us about the Innovation Ranch real briefly. And I think for those of us that are here, right, kind of understanding what it is that you're trying to do there will be really helpful.
Sure, thanks very much. Yeah, so the Innovation Ranch, something I started this last year, and it's in early days. But basically the idea is to combine venture capital investing, incubation, and an operating company. And we're focused entirely on the needs of enterprise IT, so sort of corporate IT systems, email, HR, CRM, documents, all that kind of stuff that all companies need, not industry specific. And the way we address this is I've put together a customer council of about a dozen Fortune 500 companies. who work with me and help me identify what are the needs that corporations have that they feel are not being met today. And then I find small software vendors that can address those needs, or if they don't exist, I incubate brand new ones. And while the existing vendors that I bring together into my portfolio may be located anywhere, all the incubations, all the new things I start up, I plan to do in Montana. So it will be very much a technology sector accelerant and job creator for Montana, and that's a key part of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And then I bring those technologies to customers, and I have a unified go-to-market. So rather than the large enterprise trying to deal with 50 little companies, which is very hard for big companies, as you know, to do, I provide them a single contract, a single point of sales contact, single point of support, aggregated product liability, just much easier for them to do business with it, with a whole bunch of smaller companies. And then I'm behind the scenes, I'm raising a venture capital fund. Just started that effort now so that I have capital to invest either in the existing companies I bring into the portfolio or into the brand new incubations as well. So it's got a few pieces, but they all work together. Very, very positive feedback from customers. Got the customer council going, have a bunch of companies in the portfolio. I'm calling the stable to keep with the ranch theme, and we have some incubations with it. I have programmers in Bozeman who are working now on addressing some completely unmet needs that these customers have.
So while Philip was in New York working on artificial intelligence, I was thinking AI meant artificial insemination. And so I think it goes to show you how far this state has advanced, like how far we have moved. And I want to welcome you back home again, Philip. It's an honor to have you back here in our state, and then not just being here as part of the scenery and enjoying life here, but also starting up a business here, and then being a facilitator for growing additional business. So,
Thank
Philip
you,
Britton.
Judd. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Feel good, Judd.